Hello, love.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Love, that's you, Talia. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we've just been chatting, so I know how you are, but I'm just going to ask again because that seems to be what we do when we start a conversation is how are you doing?
I'm so good. I just love you and your energy. And I'm so honored to be on this beautiful podcast that you've record or that you've created and to have this conversation. It's just gonna be so good. And yeah, I'm good. It just, life is pretty good right now.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, are you, this is I hate that I'm even bringing this in because I hate when people go really superficial with this, but because you and I are on the same sweet little island and our
Yes.
weather has been bizarre lately, do you have sun right now or are you guys getting the weird like rainy snow?
We're a little bit overcast, but for about 20 minutes, an hour ago, there was light snow. And I'm like,
Oh,
WTF. My skin is ready for the sunshine. I am so ready. And it's been really, up and down. But right now, it's just kind of chill. It's kind of almost neutral, just
yeah.
kind of nothing. We had the power out yesterday. I don't know if that happens often in Victoria where you are, but the power was out yesterday because it was really windy, like super windy, branches falling off trees and stuff. So it's kind of all over the place. It's spring on the West Coast. Well, not quite,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We, yeah, I have definitely not experienced the power outage. Granted, if I think about it, I have always lived in, I don't know what they're, but like protected grid. So like for 13 years, I lived in the same grid as the police and the fire department. So we were totally taken care of and our power would never go out. And then after that, I moved to the neighborhood where the hospital was. So again, we would never go out. And now, now I'm not in any particular area that I think would be protected. And no, we haven't had any power out. We had such a beautiful morning today. I mean, it's very cold, but it's so beautiful and blue sky. When you just said my skin needs the sun, this morning I hopped on my spin bike and I was wearing like biker shorts and I caught a glimpse of how white my legs were and I almost died. And my partner right now is in Costa Rica. He's coming home Saturday and he's only been there for 10 days. Well, I'm sure actually he'll come home with a tan, but I'm actually considering like running to the store and getting a self tanner because I'm so freaking pale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, we need that. I don't know. It's like I feel that anyways, like whatever it is, the melanin or something in our skin that gets activated from the sun. And yeah, it's weird when we start getting pale. And I think also like I'm Caucasian, so I'm technically white, but it's like white and pale is associated with sickness,
Right.
whereas color, some rosiness in your cheek or in your cheeks, or a little bit of a tan, kind of to me says like health and vitality. Because sometimes it's an unpopular opinion, but I think the sun is really good for you and very nourishing and therapeutic. Listen to your inner nudges to go into the shade when you need to, but the sun is good. The sun is medicine. So yeah, I hear you. Sometimes it's like, oh God, my legs haven't seen the sun in so many months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's my truth right now.
Yeah.
Let's just swan dive right in, and I would love to know what right now in your life you are reclaiming.
Mm.
Mhm.
What comes up immediately? It might not even be a word.
Yeah,
Enoughness, my enoughness.
that's the word.
And I think that I've carried not enoughness.
Mhm.
I know my entire life this time, but I've recently seen more about even in past lifetimes. And I think that this is the lifetime to reclaim that enoughness and to really stand in my sovereignty and I am enough exactly as I am in everything I've done and haven't done, in everything that I am and everything that I'm not. I am just enough. And that's what really comes up when you're saying that. And that brings us this feeling of like, oh, like I don't have to do so much shit to be enough. I'm just
Mhm.
enough because I am. So yeah, that's what comes up.
That's so good. That's so good. It reminds me of, and this is, it reminds me of this because I feel like I have this conversation a lot, or at least it comes up in like the sense of worthiness.
Mm.
And the conversation lately in a couple communities I've been in, it's been a lot of women in business. And it's like, I don't know, like I want X amount of, clients or customers or money or whatever it is. And then when we cycle down to the root, it's always like, oh, I don't know if I'm like actually worthy of that.
Mm.
And it's the idea. I know I've felt that. I felt both the enoughness or not enoughness and the like, oh, is that actually for me? Am I really worthy of that? And it's like if we truly believe we're not worthy of something, we believe we're not enough for something. It's the same, almost like sameness for me anyway. And then we're just anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because people would say, claim your abundance or something, right? And I'd be like, okay, I'm ready. Like, here's I'm ready to claim my 20 grand or whatever. It's like, no, claim that you are worthy of abundance. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, I want abundance, but it's a totally different thing to
Mhm.
feel worthy of love or giving yourself the daily practice, that contributes to your well-being or abundance. Like it really does. And I had a path of abandonment would be probably the main wound. And so then I learned to self-abandon.
Yeah.
And so I would say to myself, I want to do yoga more, or I want to do this. And then it's like, oh, there's other stuff to do. I've got emails, and it would be almost look like procrastination, or I'm self time come from that. This, I feel like giving myself this is not like I'm not worthy of this time on my mat, or I am not worthy of giving myself this well-being. It's hard to describe, but it's interesting how a lot of these things, procrastination, self-sabotage, comparison,
Mhm.
it's rooted in this not enoughness. And it's a sneaky one, definitely is.
Yeah. So what a beautiful piece to reclaim because it's calling all of those parts back in and it's like, whoop, I'm just gonna seal this perfect life, my perfect self with a perfect little bow, and we're just gonna carry on
Yeah,
on our soul mission. Here we go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of soul mission, you and I again were a little bit talking about this before we hit record. And actually, let's pin that. Can you share with the listeners just a little bit about your work and you
Mm-hmm.
and where your
Mm-hmm.
passion and magic
Yeah. I would love to. Thank you. Hey, hey, everybody. I'm Talia
lies?
Joy. I am a manifestation mentor, a spiritual guide, an intuitive channel. And really, I'm here to, yes, help you manifest the life that you desire, but really help you to step into that fullest expression of who you are and what your soul is intending for you in this lifetime, which is, yes, the abundance and the success, but it's also that fulfillment and that fuller expression of who you are and the healing and all the stuff that the journey that you're on. And so I really help people to, through manifestation and through creating the things that we desire, really reclaim, to use your word, who we are and what, as I say, our soul intended for us in this journey. So I do that through my own intuitive channel. A lot of the information that I've received and what I've learned over the years has come through that, especially in the last few years. I've also been studying the law of attraction since I was 14. So I was in an eating disorder, really insecure, basically hated my life, feeling depressed, angsty teenager that was struggling deeply while also reading Wayne Dyer books and Louise Hay books. And so it's been a really interesting journey of holding the two, being like the messy, messed up human with this wisdom that I'm here to help others with. And so it's been this journey of, taking my own medicine, walking the healing journey and all of that, while really having a deep understanding, also not understanding, because I don't know how much we can understand as a human, but just how this life works. I find it so fascinating, which is what we're going to talk about today, and why we're drawn to manifestation, because it is that it's your soul is asking you to become more and remember more, not just become more, like do more, but to remember more of who you truly are. And that's why we desire these things. It's not just to have the money or the success. We're looking to become the fullest expression of who we are. And so I find that so fascinating. And as we grow through what we go through, which is like what I like to talk about with my clients, is like the healing work, the meeting our resistance, our triggers, our not enoughness, and walking through that bravely, that is actually how we end up manifesting the things that we are meant for, because we become that match for success, for abundance, but it's not through hustle. It's through remembering who the fuck we are and the magic, and that you are spirit, experiencing itself, and that you have that power to co-create, and the quantum exists. And that stuff is just so fascinating to me, blending the soul journey with the actual human journey and the wanting to create physical things. We get to do both. And that's definitely the path that I'm here to walk, and to help people to really activate. It's like the people that come into my experience are right on the precipice of something so big, and it's inside. It's outside as well, but it's inside, those deep clicks, that deep liberation, that freedom, that healing, those miracles. It's like you're meant for that, you're ready for that, your soul's calling you for that. So let's do that. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I do.
Good nutshell. It's a good nutshell. When you
It's
were
a complex one.
It's okay. We like complex. When you were speaking, I was just having this thought of, and it came up in conversation in the last week or so. I don't even remember where, but we can, and I'm not saying everybody does get looped in this, but we can get almost like peer pressured into thinking we want X, Y, and Z. And, thinking we want, I'm going to use a girlfriend of mine who's like, I really want a house on a lake. I really want a house on the lake. And she might really want a house on the lake. Let me just like preference that actually might be what she wants. But, if I hear her say that's often, it could land in my mind that, oh, I want a house on the lake. I want a house on the lake. And so we can start to think we want certain things, and then maybe even put effort into manifest these certain things and really bring them into our life. And I'm wondering if you have insight on this in terms of how some things just don't ever seem to actualize. Like, oh, why can't I manifest this? Do you believe that that is partly due to the fact that that actually isn't your soul's calling? Like that actually isn't what you like truly at your core desire. You're just landing in this like societal expectation of this is what we're supposed to want. Like in business, it's like, I want to earn six figures. Well, what if you don't? What if you live in the middle of the country bumpkin and you don't need that much money? What if $45,000 a year? I don't know where in the world you would live that would be enough right now, but what if that's more than enough? But you're in the societal conversation of like, oh, I need to make six figures, and it isn't actually what you want. Is You're nodding, and I'm curious if I'm being clear, and if there's anything there.
Yeah, definitely. And I hear you. There's things that like feel like the dangling carrot, where it's like the farther you go, the more it's still just right out in front of you. And actually, more than it being misaligned with what you truly want, I believe because we have free will, source spirit, I'll use, God, universe, source spirit, higher self, whatever. To me, they're all the same energy. Um, it's kind of giving, we always have the option to kind of like fuck around and find out and use free will. So I actually think we can manifest anything we want. And when something is misaligned with our soul, this is where we might like go to law school because our dad went to law school, or our mom and our grandpa and our mother's mother and our we should.
So
And
many
meanwhile, exactly, yeah. Meanwhile, inside, you're an artist. And all you want to do is fricking paint and sing and dance and travel the world. But we think we should go to law school. So you might force your way through it, but then you're unsatisfied. So
players.
when something's misaligned, like the house on the lake, you might work really hard to get a house on the lake. And then you get there and you go like, this is it. Like that didn't cure my depression or my insecurity or like that really. And that's when it's kind of like, it wasn't really for you. But I feel like the things that are always dangled in front of us that we can't quite claim or bring in, it's usually because we're ignoring the spiritual assignment, which is cool because this is what we're talking about today. We're missing the mark because in order to manifest for us old souls, the ones that are here for transformation, for that deeper path, you may be an empath, you may be more sensitive, a deep thinker, a seeker, a light worker, whatever word you want to use. we're older souls and we're here for like a full experience. Our soul hopes that we find something like enlightenment in this lifetime. So I don't know if we're ever there, like on our meditation pillow. Now I'm enlightened on Thursday, you know, whatever day. But our soul is hoping that we transcend our suffering. So sometimes we're endlessly chasing something that never comes because we're missing the whole point. So I'll just call myself out and go, that was money for me. Where it's like, I'm doing all the things. I'm in business. I have offers. I'm putting myself out there. I'm incrementally, you know, charging more of what I'm worth. I'm doing the work, but I'm completely ignoring my mother wound or
Yeah,
my abandonment wound. And I'd have business coaches. They're like, do you want to talk about your mom? I'm like, no, let's talk about my launch strategy. And I did that for years. So it's not just that it's that, but it's like we're not fully coming into our magnetism. And to manifest something, we have to be magnetic to it. And
yeah,
when we have a whole bunch of power leaks, we're missing the point. We're just trying to write out stuff more or do mantras or, you know, do another vision board. The
mhm,
universe knows what you want. We've been saying this shit over and over, and it knows you want $20,000 months or, you know, to write a book or whatever it is, but you might be missing the growth assignment attached to that. So for me, it was abandonment because I had that wound. I was always self abandoning. So I wasn't putting myself first, AKA, I was not valuing myself. That translates directly to money.
yeah,
Value, money, money, worth.
yeah,
So I could mantra all day long. I could take all the programs, but I'm not reaching my goal because I'm kind of going like, oh, that shit's too hard. I'd rather just write out some more stuff.
yeah.
Don't really want to deal with the fact that I constantly self abandon. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Totally does. It totally does. Which reminds me also of that piece that we spoke about before we hit record about the like permission and okayness to slow things down and to be in in your own presence and to be still and to not be in that hustle, not be in that doing, even, you know, and I'm a creative being. I love creating. My mind is like, okay, what's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? And God only knows there are pieces that I am also abandoning for sure.
Mhm.
Yes. So it's like the healing is often in, the clarity is often in the next evolution, the manifestation is often in that pause, in that slowing
Mhm.
down. You know, as a really simple example, and you know, this may land and may not land. I have one spot open right now for a new one-on-one client, and the time we're recording this, it's February 29th. So I'm promoting that I have one open spot for the month of March. And I've promoted that a couple of times. And I have been literally stuck in my house. Not stuck. Wow, that's not the right word. I've been choosing to be a homebody lately. And there's this class that I, you know, really have wanted to go to for actually years. And for whatever reason, I just haven't been going to it. And I booked myself in 2 weeks ago and didn't go to the class. And booked myself back in this week on Tuesday. I was like, I'm going to go to this class. Like, I know I'm really excited about going to this class. And it was a dance class, and it was going to get me back into my body and out of my head and exactly what I, you know, preach and love. And on my drive to the class, I get a message, beep, beep. When does your one-on-one spot open? I'm really interested.
Mhm.
Of fucking course you are, because
Mhm.
I am now going to practice what I preach. I am going to detach from the work, detach from my home, detach from the norm, detach from the everyday regular, and I'm going to get into my body and out of my head and just be. Of course, you want
Mhm.
to take my one-on-one spot.
Yeah.
And this is someone
You're
that I'm thrilled to work with. Thrilled.
yeah. And you're listening to your intuition, right? Like I say this to my clients all the time. Like I'll have somebody who's looking for love, and in their head, because I mean, this is what we all do, but we think that, like, okay, to find love, it's got to come through a dating app or a friend that hooks us up or some sort of love associated thing. But they're ignoring the nudge to go out for more walks, to be in nature more. They could go out to the trail, like your example, that they've been putting off and putting off. And they're on the trail and there's this running and your two dogs are sniffing each other's butts and there's this moment of love. And it's like, because source was trying to pull you out. And so for you, you might have been in your head or feeling resistance. And when you went, kind of fuck it, I'm just going to listen to my intuition, do something for me. That's magnetic. That is energy
Yeah.
that draws people in and they don't even know why. She might have that this person, maybe not she, but they might have been thinking about working with you. And then something about that day was like, oh yeah, I'm going to write her.
Yeah.
And we don't even understand how that actually works, but it's energy. And that's the part that I just love
Yeah.
because force doesn't create results.
Absolutely
I,
not.
I learned that in my eating disorder. You cannot force yourself into health.
Yeah.
You cannot berate yourself into wellness.
Mhm.
So you can't ignore your nudges into success. It just almost doesn't work. And it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with getting a client.
Yeah.
But look what happens.
I know.
Yeah. I love to think about, I'm just drawn to talk about here. Source shows me that there's a bunch of different levels of our purpose. And a lot of times humans think my purpose is to, be an artist or be a coach or write a book or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's many different levels, but they show me that number one, like your highest purpose, kind of the reason why we do all this is simply to evolve as a soul. So we come here, we go through shit, we learn. Once we pass on and we're kind of in between, this is how it occurs to me. We learn from our life and we go, wow, like that stuff really worked, but like, man, that didn't really work. Okay, note going forward, just like we do in general. If you went on a big trip and came back and you're like, yeah, the fact that I didn't plan anything, that really didn't work, or this did work, and I'm going to take that and go forward. We do that in our lifetime. So, highest purpose is simply to evolve and grow. And over many lifetimes, remember more of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
that you have the power of source to create and all of that. But we also have a personal evolution purpose, is what they call it. My channel calls it through me. And this is what we came to overcome. So this is going to be about your biggest wound. And for me, why I said abandonment, that has sort of bled off into so many different things. That was the eating disorder. That was addiction. That was numbing out. That was not charging my worth. That's feeling not good enough, abandoning my workouts. It came into so many things. And as I heal that, so your personal evolution purpose is what you personally came here to overcome. So I know clients, some common ones are like trust issues where probably their parents were not reliable and they, have a really hard time trusting the universe, themselves, men, women, whatever. Abandonment is another one, lack and scarcity, or feeling like you have to hustle. Maybe your parents, I had a client that her parents were immigrants and they were really hard workers just to keep their job. And so she learned like blood, sweat, tears, raw knuckles. And if you're not doing that, you're not moving forward. So we have these personal things that we came to overcome, and that's where your manifestation comes for, like I say, people like us that are old souls that are here for transformation inside and out. Because you and I mean, and probably everybody listening is present to the fact that you could have $1 million, but that doesn't mean you love your body. That doesn't mean that you have standards in relationships. That doesn't mean you're eating well or taking care of yourself. It doesn't mean you're happy. People that are celebrities, I think of Robin Williams all the time. Like people loved him. People thought he was amazing. He had a family, he had kids, he had a wife for a long time, and he didn't feel worthy enough to stay in this world. Riches will not make you happy. So the personal evolution purpose is like, are you growing through what you've been through? That's actually where 90% or more of your magnetism is. As I heal unworthiness, as we're talking about, even in what I'm reclaiming, that's where my potency comes. That's where I can take up space and my message resonates, or what has, the confidence. Even in business, it's tough. There's up days, there's down days, there's people that say no, there's launches that flop. And like, I got to be okay through all of that. Because if I'm not going to be able to create that success. So I don't know if that totally makes sense, but we do all have this personal evolution purpose. It's nothing to do with anyone else. It's what we personally came here to overcome. And I love Wayne Dyer. He's been one of my main teachers, and he was one of, I think it was 6 children, and his mom couldn't handle them all. His dad left. He was put in an orphanage, and he was angry up until his 30s, like fucking rage about his dad and all this stuff. But he realized early on that that taught him self-reliance. And then he went on to teach others self-reliance. And then his work evolved into much more spiritual work. But if he wouldn't have sort of moved through the rage, he wouldn't have uncovered his massive light. So it's kind of like the same thing that we have. We have this shit that we've been through, and I've been bullied and, lots of stuff. And if I stay in that anger and that rage and that not enoughness, I actually don't think it's physically possible for me to manifest the things that I want while in that vibration.
Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. And as you're speaking, what I'm hearing and feeling is that I think let's use, okay, so you and I work with clients. We're service-based, we coach, we facilitate, we mentor, we guide, we all, whatever word we fill in the blank there. And I know a lot of my clients don't do that. And I'm not sure, I'm sure a good amount of listeners do that, but then there's also those who don't. And maybe you have a corporate job, or maybe you don't technically work in, an industry. Maybe you're raising a family and working in your own industry. And I wonder if there's a bit of story for people who don't coach, air quotes, that, well, it doesn't really matter, if I move through my life's lessons, because I'm not teaching it. I'm not having to like show anyone else how to do this. And and yes, you are. And yes, you do. And, as we evolve each as an individual, we're the ripple. And so if you're working in a school, maybe you're a teacher and you're moving through your journey and your growth, and you're having the like, oof, this is like, you're in the trenches and you're getting there and you're moving through this learning of yours, and becoming this, more expansive, brighter version of yourself on the other side. Your behaviors and how you be and how you speak and the energy that you give and the energy that you hold people in is the ripple. And maybe if I could even shorten this, it's like you have no idea how potent being in your energy is. And I'm saying this to everybody. I mean, I'm looking at you and wow, yes, and every single human listening, being in your energy is medicine. And you sharing your experience, your teachings, your pains, your recovery is medicine and important, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a librarian, a garbage pickup person, landscaper. I don't care what you do for work. It's like, yes, it is important. You don't have to be a coach or a healer. I'm going to keep using air quotes. You are that. We are all that. Every time we have a connection, a conversation with a family member, a friend, a child, that is leadership, that is mentorship, that is support, that is a teacher. And it's just really important. This is really long-winded to really just say, like, your journey is valuable, and your teaching and your experiences are valuable, and what you have to say is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
That felt important.
Yeah, I hear you in that. And I think I definitely 100% agree. And we think that just if you're a counselor or a coach, that that's the way, like you're saying, that we're making an impact. But I love to say, it's like, who are you being at the end of your driveway when you're taking out your garbage and you see your neighbor at the end of their driveway? Or we've all seen the cashier that fricking hates their life, or the cashier that loves their life. I actually last night went to the grocery store, and this cashier had like sparkly eye makeup, and she asked me like, "Oh, did you bring your own bags?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, they're here." She's like, "You have a beautiful voice. I hope you do something with your voice in your life." And I'm like, "Actually, I do." And she's like, "I could tell." And I was like, "I love your eye makeup." She's like, "Oh my gosh, it brings so much joy." And that's a perfect example of this sort of goosebumps interaction with a beautiful soul.
Yeah.
Or there's the interaction with the cashier that doesn't even look at you, that doesn't even, they ask you 3 times if you have a card because they're not even present and they don't even remember they just asked you, which is fine. We've all been in that. But who you are being, as you said, in your life is impacting people. And say you've moved through unworthiness, and maybe it showed up in your health, and you've transformed your health because you decided to, step through this not enoughness or whatever. There's a friend, there's a cousin you have that also is dealing with health. Like, if you lose 40 pounds because you really started looking after yourself, or you did somatic work and your nervous system, people are going to start asking you, what
Yeah.
did you do? And you go like, oh, it was nutrition, but it's also like the somatic work. You don't have to be a coach to share your light.
Yeah.
And as you said, the teachers, the community members, my husband, I call him Community Phil. I'm not sure if he likes it or not, but he has this mentality of like, he literally a couple months ago lent our neighbor a cup of sugar. And I'm like, did you do that? He's like, well, yeah, she needed a cup of sugar. I'm like, this is like that stuff. Instead of, I don't know my neighbor, I don't want to know my neighbor,
Yeah.
I'm only looking out for myself. As you step through your stuff, you become a light. And it really doesn't matter what you do as a profession.
Yeah.
And I love that you said if you're a stay-at-home parent and you're in your own industry, that you're molding your kids.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids. My 2 oldest are girls. They're 13 and 10. If I was still in my eating disorder, you know how much that would impact them. Nothing to do with my career.
Yeah. So much more.
Yeah. And now I'm teaching them balance and love, and a love of healthy food, and also an enjoyment of chocolate or whatever else, and being active because I'm in that place now.
Yeah.
So whether it's your business or you have kids or not, like you are impacting people around you just by stepping through, your journey and what you've come here to, step through.
Well, even just that statement, you're impacting people around you. We've all been in the energy of someone who was super furious and pissed off, or we've been in the energy of someone who we like, maybe you meet them and it's an instant, oh my gosh, no, get me away from this person. Or like that cashier, bless her heart, I'd like to meet her. We've been in the energy of someone where we're like, oh, get in here, like get in here, hug me so tight, get like into my body. I want you in my pocket.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. So that person, and I'm sure all of us can relate to meeting both of those types of people, they've impacted us.
Mhm.
So you're no different.
Yeah. And it's funny in this purpose talk, the other important key level of that Source calls it the earth purpose. And this is what we're talking about, is like how you came here to impact your fellow humans.
Mm.
And that can be in your humor, in your generosity, in your cooking, in your laugh, like those people that just have the biggest, loudest, best laugh that just makes you want to laugh.
Yeah.
You came here to impact people through your gifts, through your talents, through your ideas, through your perspective, through your empathy, through your intuition, through your gift of music, whatever it is. That's actually, to me, more important than what you do for work. I hope that everybody has a job that fulfills them in some way, but the impact you're here to make is not just through that. And you can bring that to your job, right? To your teaching job or to your garbage pickup job. You can bring that essence of who you are, the youest you, to all of those things. And that's what I see as your earth purpose, how you're here to impact humans.
Yeah.
Not thinking of a career. If I was to ask you, everybody listening, nothing to do with your career, how do you positively impact humans around you? And what are some of the things people have said to you? And, I bet you're a good friend and you probably give good advice. And maybe sometimes you overgive, but in that, you're a giver, you're a lover, you'll drop by with a lasagna, or you have a voice of an angel. Doesn't mean you have to like go on American Idol or try to be huge, but maybe you sing in your church. Maybe you hum to your children. Like we all have these gifts that we're meant to pass on. It's like literally what bleh, flows through you in your natural state.
Yeah.
I'm very chill. And that's something that a lot of people are like, I love how chill you are. Like everyone's freaking out about politics and freaking out about, even COVID and stuff. I was like, we're going to all be fine. It's like, no, but like, blah, blah. I'm like, no, we're going to be fine. That's part of a gift. And so it's really looking at ourselves as like, we're meant to pass on our light independent of a career. And then awesome. If you bring that to your career, that's awesome because it will be very fulfilling.
Okay, so you said a sentence and I almost interrupted, but I try so hard not to interrupt, but I got very excited. And I don't know
You
if
you can.
okay, I don't know if you're even going to remember how you said it, but I feel like it's a beautiful prompt for everyone listening. And I'm wanting to hear it again and maybe you can repeat it. It was along the lines of like outside of your career, what is like do you remember what you said?
Mhm.
You
How do
say
you positively impact the people around you,
okay.
independent of anything you do for work?
Okay, I would love everyone listening to pause on that, think on that, write that down. And I'm
Mhm.
very curious to hear, and I want someone, if you're doing it, to find me on Instagram and maybe find Talia on Instagram and
Mhm.
share with us that. That is potent. I think that's really beautiful. So that's my mid podcast call to action.
I
Okay.
love that. Yeah. And just like when you're relaxed, when you're feeling good,
Yeah.
you have a natural medicine. And a lot of people, especially humble people, they go, no, I don't. No, I don't. But it's time to really step into that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm hella empathetic or,
Mhm.
hilarious. I have like a humor that just makes people laugh or whatever. Yeah, it's a beautiful assignment for all of us to continue to think of that because people do put pressure on themselves to go like, I don't have a career or I haven't written my book yet, so I'm not impacting people.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
totally. Totally. Okay, speaking of purpose,
Mhm.
you have a magic formula to help people find their purpose? Because this is something I hear a lot is like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. My partner does a lot of work with purpose. He's a high performance coach and does a ton of work with like values and purpose and mission. And he ran me through a bit of a practice that really shook me a little bit. And I'll just share it here. And then I'm super curious about if you have a process here. I mean, we did a whole bunch of questions and he asked me to like go through my values and we did all of that cool stuff. And then he asked me to straight up, what was the most impactful moment of your life? And I said, oh, when my mom died. And he said, how did it, you know, tell me about that? I mean, he knows the whole story, but how did that impact you? And I can't remember my word for word, but through what I was saying, he said, "Your like this is your gift. This is your medicine
Mhm.
to support people in moving through grief, moving through loss, being with the feelings." Because I suppressed it for almost 20 years. I refused to go into the pain and kept living this like easy breezy lemon squeezy life. And and now I know, having like opened it and gone into it and really feeling it, how much that's opened for me. And yeah, I mean, I wish I could remember word for word the way he shared it because it was quite profound, but it was that coming to like what was a pivotal experience in your life? What you would deem to be one of the most profound or the most profound experiences, teaching lessons of your life? And like what did you learn from that? And then that is to share. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious if you have some practices around helping people find their purpose.
Yeah. And I think I mean, I am who I am. So sometimes with my clients, I'm like, I'm about to go all Talia on you, which is basically making it a whole lot deeper than maybe it even needs to be. But I think we have to first look at like, what do you mean by purpose? Like, not you, but when somebody's asking themselves, what do we mean? Do we mean like a meaningful career? Do we mean feeling fulfilled and in quote unquote alignment with our soul? Because I think the way that I was saying about these different levels, it's like if you're growing in general in any way, then you're doing part of your purpose is to not stay stuck and stay in the 3D and stay so, stuck. It's to evolve. So you are actually doing, in your purpose of what your soul has intended for you. Are you growing through what you go through, as I say, or like you said, like you want to go on living your life, but like ignoring that deep healing shit? That's a huge part of why we came here and how we're going to experience more of life. And then there's the earth purpose, as I'm talking about like the gifts we're meant to share. So, in the typical way that people think my purpose, if we're going to go straight to like a business, I forget if it's Dutch or what, but have you ever heard that word, that ikigai? Have you ever heard of that word?
Oh, yeah. I
And
have.
it's something about like your like I don't know if it's purpose, but it's like what you like profession, business, what you're meant to share. And
Yeah.
it's this combination of what you love to do. So
Yeah.
what do you love to do? Is it speaking? Is it singing? Is it talking? Is it engaging? Is it, being on stage, like music, whatever? What do you love to do? And I think it's like a Venn diagram of the three things, what
Yeah.
you're naturally good at. So then those natural gifts and talents, it could be the gift of listening.
Yeah.
I know for me, I've always been able to hear through people's words. And now I realize it's the intuition and it's being able to feel energy. Someone can say something to me and I can feel so much more. It's just something I can naturally do.
Mhm.
So the things that you're good at naturally, even if it's like technology or, singing or whatever, and then mixing that with what the world needs.
Mhm.
So the world needs more love or more, empowerment or self-esteem or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
when you kind of all bring those together, you can start to see ways that you could impact people and then perhaps make a business out of it or make income from it.
Yeah.
So something that you love to do, it might even be like angel cards. And maybe you're also really good at intuitively reading someone. Those are clues to like maybe you're a healer that is here to impact more people or a channel or, something like that. So I think it's kind of defining, what you mean by purpose. And if we're looking for a job, I think the other aspect to bring in or a business is what are people willing to pay for? That's kind of getting more and more physical because you might be an empowerment coach, but wording that in a way that people will buy what you're looking for and really kind of niching that again is sort of more physical. So, does that answer your question or what else comes up
Yeah.
with that?
So I think I have this internal, hmm, it's not a battle, but I don't believe that our purpose really a lot of the time has anything to do with our job. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
I think some of us get to blend the two, and I think a lot don't. And I think that's where there's some stickiness where people then start to feel that almost like failure energy or that not enoughness because they're not doing their purpose for for their work. And so if they're not in a purposeful job and they believe that purpose means job, and that there's no other way that they can live in alignment, there's this like, wow, wow, well, I'm just going to hang in the towel because I don't really know, or throw in the towel because I don't really know what else I can do. I'm not doing my purpose. And that I guess comes back to that whole like, how are you, yeah, making impact in the people's lives? Can, like maybe your purpose is like maybe it's creating beautiful gardens and you do it on your weekends and you support your neighbors and landscaping their yard, or creating, yeah, flowers are here for me right now, like flower arrangements. Maybe you're just the most incredible flower
Mm-hmm.
arrangement guru and that is your purpose and it brings you joy and it brings other people's joy, but it's just a side thing that you do and you do it for fun and you do it for pleasure. And so yeah, I don't know. That's not a question. It's just more of a maybe permission that it is, I think it is okay, at least for me, if your purpose, life's purpose, isn't showing up in your career, maybe.
Mm. Hmm. I also love you said something really subtle there where you said people will feel disempowered because they're not doing their purpose. And that
Mhm.
was like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's not something
Right.
we do,
The
it's what
being.
we're being.
Yeah.
And I have clients like that aren't in their own business and go like, I want something more meaningful. I want to like live in my purpose. And those are different. I
Mm.
want a meaningful career is
Yeah.
different than living in purpose because I could be creating a podcast, but I
Mhm.
could be every podcast going, okay, like, what do I need to do so that people will buy? And okay, what do I need to share? And I'm really candy coating and I'm not being too vulnerable. I could be doing a podcast. That doesn't mean it's my purpose.
Mhm.
Writing a book isn't my purpose. Doing all these things, yet the podcast actually is something that works so well for me and has exploded my business. But
Mhm.
it's because of who I'm being when I hit record.
Yeah.
It's because I do yoga first. It's because I have my own mentors and I'm crying it out and I'm processing my shit and I'm regulating my nervous system. So I show up
Mhm.
with magnetism and clarity, and people lean in and go, whoa.
Yeah.
But I could record totally off. I could record totally not, quote unquote, in purpose.
Yeah.
Being in purpose, if you picture like your spirit team showing you what purpose is, it's really more like living in the fullest expression of who you are and not so much about where you clock in and out, how
Mhm.
many clients you have and all of that. So I
Mhm.
think like you said, is it's being who you truly are, the youest you. And that does involve some healing work, unless you somehow grew up unscathed, which I don't think that's even possible. Like I really do. That's why I say personal evolution purposes. We all come to this experience. I believe that we forget these things about being source embodied and that we have the power of the universe and the quantum. We forget that stuff. We go through hardcore shit, especially before like our teen years,
Mm-hmm.
in some way or another. And then if we choose to heal, we start to be able to step into the full magnetism.
Yeah.
So if you're learning to love yourself a little bit more every day, if you're
Mm-hmm.
learning to forgive or surrender or the present moment, or be a little bit healthier in your body and your mind, then you're in your purpose. You're evolving. You're becoming more you. You're unlayering, unburdening, that's the actual purpose. That's what your Nana in heaven or spirit or whoever wants for you,
Yeah.
not just for you to become a coach. And like, I really believe we didn't come into this lifetime going, okay, in this lifetime, I'm going to make $1 million by the time I'm 30 and I'm going to sell all these coffee mugs. Like it's on Etsy. That's going to be my big thing. No, it's like, I'm going to remember who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to finally transcend the suffering of my ancestors. Oh, I just got full body
Yes.
goosebumps.
Yes.
That's what we intended to create in this life. And then people like you and I, and the people listening, we become drawn to spiritual work or the law of attraction or manifestation, or you saw The Secret and it was like, bing, like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's on purpose. You're driven to create magic in your life because your soul is calling you forward. Because we go to law of attraction, we're like, okay, I'm going to manifest money. Okay, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Fingers crossed, I'm a millionaire. And then you open your eyes and you're like, fuck, I'm not a millionaire yet. And
Yeah.
then you learn, no, it's your mindset. You're like, okay, my mindset. Okay, how do I get a better mindset? Because I'm constantly triggered. Oh, that's healing work. And you're like, okay, crap. Like, I trying to manifest. I'm knee deep in shadow work now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the heck? And so it's like we come into this to manifest some stuff. All of a sudden, we realize we're in awakening and we're healing all of our shit. And it's like, does this have to still do with the money? And it's like, yes, it does. Those desires we have pull us forward.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say quickly, I know that you and I had connected on Instagram, and I shared with you that in my heart, I know that my next chapter in my business is to host in-person retreats and deep dive experiences. I'm here for like those
Mm-hmm.
deep dive experiences that leave you changed.
Yeah.
But in that, every single time I go to do it, to book the venue, to do the thing, I get so much fucking fear and all this resistance. And I've realized it's because I was bullied, I was abandoned, I was shamed. So being up on stage in my nervous system goes like, oh my God, everybody could laugh at me. They could, call me all the names. They could abandon me.
Yeah.
And it scares me. So
Yes.
part of me stepping into my goal is me healing that level.
Yeah.
So it's like your manifestations pull you forward if
Mm-hmm.
you let them.
That's beautiful. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So
excited for your in-persons. I'll be there.
yeah, it's I definitely know that it's just a really powerful part of this experience, and it scares the shit out of me. So also for everybody listening, you might have big goals, or if you do have a business and your mentor, you keep hearing like raise your rates and you're like, oh fuck, this scares me, it's scary. Or to go out on a date, if you're looking for love, it can be like, as you know, your nervous system can be like, not safe,
Mm-hmm.
because you've been through stuff.
Yeah.
So take that as an invitation, not that you can't, not that you're too weak or you don't have what it takes. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is calling me through some muck. It's
Yeah.
calling me to do a little fire walk, Tony Robbins style.
Yeah. 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 That is the dating world, isn't it? A constant firewalk.
There you go. Ooh,
Wait, oh, ow. Sharp one. Oh
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just been like in the most comfortable loungy position, and this is a bit of a side note. I have what I deem to be one of the most adorable chairs that I sit in my office, and it's so impractical. It's like a little wicker mini peacock chair, which reminds me of being a child, and
Mm.
it is cute, and like my poor aging body. It's like, what on earth are you doing? Sitting.
I have been sitting with a yoga block behind my back
Oh,
because I
yeah.
find that if I squish it against the chair, it like makes me kind of just sit up a little bit straighter instead of slouching. So I've been like stashing one behind my back lately.
So good. I was at my osteo last week and he's like, you're like the erector spine, the muscles
Mhm.
up my spine. He's like, wow, those are tight. So I have bizarrely good posture and I used to figure skate and I assume that's where it comes from. But oh, and then fitness, like, oh yeah, it all makes sense. Like, chest out, bum out, really tall posture. And because of that, now I wasn't just having good posture sitting here, but because of that, I'll be upright. And so those muscles are engaged. And then I'll notice like if my computer's far forward, I'll hinge forward, but those muscles are still so tight. Like
Mhm.
feeling them right now, just demonstrating it, they're like concrete. So I need to find a new way to do my work.
And weren't you also saying about slowing down is a big assignment for you in this life,
I
which is
might have
like
said that.
the opposite of almost like rigidity is like
Right?
loose, like just like let
So
go.
I will like go into like, spinal circles and undulation throughout the day and just try to find some loosey-goosiness.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, my sweet body. What is our time? Oh, I've got my glasses off. All I can see is you. I can't see the fine print. I I could continue talking to you for a really long time. Can you share a little bit about your work right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I am writing a book, which I've been knee deep in for over a year.
I love
I wrote it in 3 months, 80,000 words in 3 months. It just was like,
wow.
bang, ready. And now we've been editing for a year because that's apparently a very large process. So I'm working on that. And it's basically a guidebook to take you through awakening, to understand this stuff, because I really do see life as somewhat formulaic where as we do step through things, we get magnetism. We are kind of having this feedback sort of tests in a way to see where we're really at and all of this. So I feel like the more people can understand how this experience works, the less we have to feel like, oh, maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe the laws of the universe are broken for me. Maybe I just don't have what it takes. So I'm working on that. I also am creating a deep dive experience coming up in April
Okay.
April, and it's called The Shift. And I teach about when we are in this in between stage, which I'm sure some people listening can identify with. I call it the goo phase because when the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, it actually completely breaks down into goo, into gel, where there is no nervous system, no digestive system, no eyes, no spine, no nothing, total goo, and then starts building itself back up into a butterfly. And so sometimes when we're in this goo phase, we're not where we were.
Mhm.
Nothing looks like where we were, but we're not yet where we're going. All of our full colors and our wings aren't totally formed. And that's this in between stage where we are really asked to look at, like, what is life teaching me? What is life calling me to do? What do I want for my life going forward? What's important to me? You're mentioning core values. Who do I want to become, or what is this next iteration? So it's called The Shift. It's a 2-day deep dive, helping people to move through the goo phase, out of where you've been, which is some release and some healing, into that next version of you and that next sort of, phase in your life. So that's really exciting. And I also host a podcast called the Awakening Her podcast that you were just on. I've already had so much feedback. I've been like, I
Ah.
just listened to that somatics girl. Oh my gosh. And so it was a very good episode.
Yeah.
Um, and I have a private podcast as well called On the Path, which hosts my methodology. And it's really a no fluff breakdown of how we continue moving forward to manifest in our awakening journey. There's weekly assignments that are just really clear practices to do. I do deep dive episodes and all sorts of, we're starting a challenge March 1st tomorrow, technically at the time of recording, a money manifestation challenge. So we do monthly challenges and all of that. That's called On the Path. And and it's a private podcast community. So that's what got going on right now. Because I'm writing my book, I'm really being kind to myself and my schedule and not doing
Yeah.
72 group programs and shit because
Yeah.
I need to really focus to honor myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are the main things going on right now.
Okay, when is the shift? I'm just thinking for when we're gonna be, actually, I'll tell you right now when this episode is gonna be aired. I have them all written down.
April 20th and 21st, 420, 421.
Okay, so I might be, I can, yeah, maybe we can sneak it in. It's not, it's, yeah, we're in May, so I can, maybe we'll adjust it and pop it in. So make sure I have the info, put the link in the show
Okay.
notes, and then
Okay.
I'll
If possible, cool.
time
If not,
it
it's all good.
in.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on your heart? Anything that's feeling to come through before we hug and
Yeah.
talk?
Well, I was going to ask you a question. In your journey, in everything that we've been talking about, in your journey with somatics and with the nervous system, I really enjoyed our conversation on my show. But with all this stuff that we're talking about sort of overcoming and moving through, and even the example of like live events for me, it brings up this reaction. From
Yeah.
your perspective, do you feel that your clients' goals and desires are growing them through something to find like a more stable ground through almost like the body, the nervous system? I'm curious, like almost how that translates because I
Mm.
see it from like a soul perspective, but I'm curious, like how does that translate in that, like the almost the recovery of our body and our nervous system and all of that? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it all to me is, and I guess I'm just wording it differently than what you're wording it, but I think ultimately it's the same. It's like we're moving, I speak to the language of like old stories. We have these belief patterns and stories and behaviors that live in our body, and we get really held back from them. They're, self-limiting beliefs, self-sabotage behavior, multiple ways that we can talk about it. And we can avoid them if we want to. We can avoid them and live in discomfort and not land in alignment with our soul assignment and just probably come back the next time and do it again and do it again and do it again. And when we're confronted with the opportunity to step through and challenge those stories or challenge those beliefs. And so with an example of like, okay, I'm really scared to host live events, to get really, really clear first on, okay, you've already said the word scared, so there's fear. So check, we already know the emotion that's right there. To get into that, we would go into some story about that. We would get into the feeling of it. We would come back to the memory of when it first came, and we would stay there because that's actually where the healing needs to happen. It's not adult Talia. She's fine. She's like, let's fucking do this thing already. It's sweet little Talia who's like, I still don't trust them to be nice to me. And so it's good information when those fears come up because it's like, okay, gosh, I've done a lot of work and she still has a bit of fear. And so it invites us back into that deepening relationship to self where we're not self-abandoning. Self-abandoning would be not planning the in-person events in order to just not go into the discomfort of her fear. So
Mm.
self-abandoning is like not, yeah, it's not following our manifestations. It's not setting the goals. It's not seeing a bigger picture for herself. I don't think I'm answering your question. Now I'm totally diverting, but I think it's all the same. It's like healing our nervous system and creating safety to explore new things, new opportunities, next level, next step. It's just part of the same like soul assignment. It's part of it's all the same. I'm not sure. My words aren't coming to me right now. Mm, maybe you can ask the question again or in a different way, and I might have a different answer. 'Cause I'm feeling
Yeah, I mean, I feel you, and I think that's really cool that you're almost saying self-abandoning would be avoiding doing the events. And I'm just using that as a metaphor. This isn't about me, this is about all of us, right? So it comes back into manifestation for everybody listening when you have that goal that you feel like you're continuously up against fear. Or I know I have a lot of clients that just feel like I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Like
Right.
businessy people have businesses. And I'm like, I'm the least businessy people, but I've somehow figured it out for 8 years, you know?
Yeah.
But not stopping at that place where we feel blocked and actually asking yourself, like, in your language, it might be, how can I create safety and security through this, nurturing and safety through this scary, maybe you would use different language, but it's like, how can I not avoid the pain,
Mm-hmm.
but walk through it and not even like just fucking do it, but
Mm-hmm.
more like while holding myself. Like I got this vision of, say, me, I'm booking events and all this fear comes up. And then I do some, some somatics. I do some yoga. I go for a walk. The fear's there and I'm still going to move forward.
Yeah.
And that ties into what I'm saying. Like that is you evolving. So for everybody listening, if you feel, when you feel not smart enough, or you're at a deficit, or you don't know what you're doing, or you should be making more money by now, or who's going to love me, like whatever these things are, henceforward on your journey, and know that that fear is going to come up. And that's where I think we use our tools,
Yeah.
like that's where that toolbox comes from,
Mm-hmm.
or comes into play, whether it's EFT, or it's having a mentor, or it's somatics, or it's yoga, or it's all of the above, right? How can I nurture myself while I do something a little bit scary? And
Yeah.
that kind of pushes your growth edge with safety. If that, I don't know if that translates, but
Totally. And again, coming back to that, like not doing the thing is self-abandoning, and it keeps us stuck and it keeps us looped in the same behaviors and nothing changes. And then we're not in that energy of moving forward. We're stagnant, we're stuck. And we stay connected and we stay in belief of this story that's kept us here. And what's happening is that story and that belief is there because a younger self has had an experience, and she or he is, or they have made up this story. And the story was true at a time, or at least it felt true at a time. And the more we like turn away from it, and as an example, let's say you're having a conversation or a kundalini practice or a breathwork practice, and emotion starts to come up, a memory and an emotion starts to come up. In the act of suppressing that emotion from coming up, in the like trying to stifle it and stop it because now is not the right time and I don't have time to cry and I'm in a group, I can't be crying here. The act of stifling it is literally like you standing and turning your back to your younger self, turning your back to that part of you that is hurting. And what is needed, full stop, period, is for us to turn all the way towards it, heart towards it, and be there. Turning your back to it is self-abandoning. So stopping yourself from crying, stopping yourself from expressing, stopping yourself from speaking, stopping yourself from trying, stopping yourself from anything that you feel drawn to do is self-abandonment. And maybe that feels harsh and that might be even like quite offensive or triggering, but I mean, my hand is up. Like I have done that a lot. Right, your hand is up too. And the journey is to learn that it is okay that we turn our heart towards that little part of self. It is okay that that feeling's there. The feelings are true. The feelings are true. The story now might not be true, but the feelings around it are true. And so if we can come into recognition that like, okay, those feelings are valid. I see you, I hear you, and I'm going to feel this with you, but that story that you're telling is no longer true. And really like hammering that home as much as we need to. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love how you said too, if we go to do something scary, feel the fear, and then go like, stifle it in whatever way. Like, never mind. I didn't, never mind. Let's just go back to
Kidding.
our old way of being.
Yeah.
Um, I saw the visual just now of, like the infinity sign, like it looks like an eight or that keeps going. I saw it where like you start going and you start going up to like the middle point where everything crosses and you're going to venture into new territory. But when you come up against that hard stuff, you also turn your back on the path into the new territory and stay in the loop. I don't know if that's going to translate,
Yeah, I see
but it's
it.
like instead of going into the other end of the
Yeah.
infinity, you actually just stay in the loop. And that's when we go, I'm so stuck. I'm in looping patterns.
Yes.
Because every time you're faced with that discomfort, and this is a human thing, our hands are, still up. We do this. This is a human thing. But the more you can be aware to breathe through and move through the fear and be with yourself,
Mhm.
then turning your back, you're not going to be stuck in that same pattern over and over because
Yes.
you're choosing to like henceforward.
Yeah.
And there's some beautiful practices. Kundalini will do this for me or different. I just have this practice where I bring in, you were doing like the hip circles and the sort of undulations, and I'll tap on my chest and I allow like fear to come up inside me and like everything that's going on or frustrations. And I just practice sitting with it,
Yeah.
like sitting with. Now I know I need to do that with these live events and all this stuff. Thank you. I should pay you for this session. But, just being with the fear.
Yeah.
And then I notice on the other side of it, like literally in this timeline, a couple minutes later, the song's done. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and I don't feel as scared of what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't turn my back on it. I was with it.
Exactly.
And then I get to go into the other side of the loop.
Exactly. Well, and it's like we all can make up this big story about how bad or scary or hard something's going to be. Like, oh, I have to have this conversation with someone. It's going to be so scary. Or I have to host this live event. And oh my God, it's going to be so scary. And we make it to be this like big thing. We do our best to make it scary and bad enough that we actually will just tap out and not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that brave part of us comes in and does it and is like, oh my gosh, that was so not as bad as I was expecting it to be.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Yeah.
9.9 times out of 10. It just wasn't even close to what I was making it up in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
even when shit does hit the fan and there's the odd time that it is, bad, when you learn how to create safety and security in your body with what we're talking about and everything else, you also start to learn that, like, no matter what happens in life, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So maybe your mom does say the thing, or you do a launch and nobody buys. It's like that worst case scenario. You still learn through being in that discomfort. Wait a minute, I'm okay anyway.
Yeah.
Like, we almost think if we put out a program and nobody buys, we're going to like die. Like, that's what it feels like in our nervous system, our survival,
Yeah.
mechanisms. It's like, no, you literally might die. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not being chased by lions anymore.
Yeah.
Literally, it was one flopped launch. Who cares? Learn from this, move forward.
Totally.
I love that you said that. And I also love that in my life, I practice that, like going with fear and like moving through it. But with these live events, I realized through talking to you, I had this thought of like, when I heal the thing, I'll be brave enough to do the thing,
Right.
which I realize like in other areas of my life, I'm like, I'm not going to wait for abundance to feel abundant. I'm not going to wait for confidence to show up on Instagram. Like, I'm just busting through, I'm doing the shit. But
Yeah.
then when it comes to the deepest of deepest fears, I'm like, you know what? When I'm completely healed, then I'll do it. So that's good. It's good. Thank you.
And what is completely healed? This is something what is that term?
Yeah. Now that I'm healed,
Right. So says no one ever.
yeah. Thank you
Ah,
so much for this conversation. This has been so nourishing and juicy. And I love your wisdom. I love what you have to offer. And I love that you created the space for us to just talk about this stuff.
yeah. I also love that we started at what was 11:11 on our call, like on our time, and it's 12:22.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Perfect.
okay, stop and record. Bye.
Yeah.
Just
And then it'll end up being an hour and 11 minutes. And
oh my God, so perfect. Yeah,
yeah.
I ditto. I'm so glad we connected. I'm so glad. I don't even remember if I reached out to you, you reached out to me, but it was an instant friendship and very grateful
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah, you had a post and you tagged like 10 different like
Right.
mentors and stuff. I'm like, I've worked with like 8 of those or had them on my show or
Yeah.
connected. I'm like, I feel like we're in the same circle and we've just never seen
Mhm.
each other. So
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
it's
what it was.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
I
you
wish you
so
a beautiful
much.
day. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll work my magic and get this out before your shift launch and
Cool.
we'll rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyla.
You're welcome. Bye, love.
Bye.